Good evening. Welcome to the Meet the Candidate Night for the upcoming Fairport School Board of Education vote that will be held on Tuesday, May 21st.
Tonight's event is brought to you by a collaboration of efforts from all of Fairport's PTSAs. We'd like to thank the Fairport Central School District for their support and for the use of this space and equipment to provide this event for the public.
I am Penny Dunn. I have 2 kids in the district, and I am the president for FHS PTSA.
And I'm Heather Wensley. I also have 2 kids in the district, and I'm the president for Northside PTA. We will be moderating the discussion for tonight.
Thank you to Stephanie Evans, president for JAPTA, and Candy Carr, secretary from Northside PTA, for collecting and reviewing the questions for tonight with the goal of helping our community to get to know these candidates and to make an informed choice when they vote. Tonight is a forum, not a debate. It is the candidates' opportunity to tell you about their positions, and all candidates will have the opportunity to answer all questions. If you have additional questions for any or all the candidates, please reach out to them. We're sure they'll be happy to answer you. There will be no questions or comments taken from the audience. Thank you for your cooperation. We anticipate tonight's event to last approximately an hour and a half.
Throughout the evening, we respectfully request the following from the audience. Please turn off your cell phones and silence any watches. We request that you treat all candidates fairly and respectfully. Please remain quiet throughout the forum. There will be, please, no clapping, cheering, or calling out, with the exception that after closing statements, you may clap for the candidates if you wish. No campaign literature or signs are allowed in this room.
Thank you to Shane Watterson, secretary from JPPTSA, for being our timekeeper tonight. When there is a half-minute left on the candidate's speaking time, the timekeeper will hold up a yellow card that says 30 seconds, indicating that you have 30 seconds to finish your answer. Please wrap up when you see the red stop card. If you continue speaking after the stop card is held up, I will say thank you and move on to the next speaker.
We are pleased to have Fairport students Helena Dixon, and I'm just going to have them turn and just wave when I call your name. Helena Dixon, Paige Maywison, and Lorenzo Pasalacqua here to ask our questions to the candidates tonight.
We'd like the students to introduce themselves now. You can just say hi, maybe just a small brief bit about yourselves.
Hi, my name is Lorenzo Pasalacqua, and I'm a sophomore at FHS.
Hi, I'm Helena Dixon. I'm class president at FHS of the sophomore class. I run track, and I'm also in the school orchestra.
Hi, I'm Paige Maywison. I'm also a sophomore. I'm in band, I'm a dancer, and I'm running for vice president for next year.
Thank you. We will be meeting with both library trustee candidates tonight and the Board of Education candidates. Unfortunately, one of the library trustee candidates could not make it. Each candidate will be given 3 minutes to introduce themselves and give opening statements. Then our students, Helena, Paige, and Lorenzo, will question the candidates. The candidates will alternate who answers first, and the candidates will be given a maximum of 90 seconds to answer. After the questions, the candidates will be given 1 minute each for their closing statements.
And we would now ask all of the candidates to please introduce themselves in the following order. Jennifer Fay, and then Dr. Mary Caitlin Wright, and then Rick Muller.
Thank you so much. And thanks so much for the opportunity to be here tonight and to speak with all of you. My name is Jennifer Fay. I've been a Fairport resident for the past 22 years, and I've lived here with my husband in Fairport, and we raised our children here, and they've gone through Fairport schools. We have 3 wonderful kids. Our oldest son is actually graduating from St. Bonaventure University this weekend, and we have a daughter who's a freshman in college who is knee-deep in final exams week right now, and then my youngest son is a sophomore here at the high school. A little bit about me personally. I am a physical therapist by training and graduated from Ithaca College, and I've done all of my clinical work practicing in the area. And for the past 7 years, I've been a full-time faculty member at Nazareth University in the graduate program in physical therapy. I decided to take a new path when I became an educator, and I actually returned to school. So in 2020, I graduated with my Doctor of Education in Executive Leadership from St. John Fisher University. Throughout my time here in Fairport, I've really learned to grow and to love this community, even though I wasn't born and raised here. I'm originally from northeastern Pennsylvania, and to see just what a wonderful spot it is to live and raise a family. And I've been lucky enough to be able to be involved with our community in a variety of different ways. Having put 3 kids through the Fairport School District, I was actively involved in the PTSA for many years and held a large variety of roles, from parent volunteer to committee chair to project coordinators to officers on the executive board of the PTA. And that was a wonderful place where I was able to be an integral part of an organization that I felt was really meaningful to me, and to really give back and serve the school district while it was, helping to educate our kids over the years. And I've also been involved in the community in terms of my participation as a parishioner at St. John of Rochester Church. I've been a parishioner there for many years, and also been a member of the parish council as well. From a professional perspective, I've been involved in service as well, and I'm currently involved with our local chapter of the New York Physical Therapy Association, where I'm the director of our local Finger Lakes district. And so, as you could see, the idea of being involved with organizations and causes and people and places that are important to me is something that has been an integral part of my life. And when the seat became available, I felt that it was a wonderful opportunity to really combine my really love of the Fairport community, my love of volunteering, and a desire to give back to others, my own personal joy that books and have brought to my life as a person, as a parent, and really to support the integral work that the library does in terms of providing educational, entertainment, and informational resources and technology for our Fairport community.
Good evening. I am Dr. Mary Caitlin White, and I am asking for your vote on May 21st for the Fairport Board of Education. I love public education. I have dedicated my life to education. I was a middle school Spanish teacher. I went back and got my PhD in curriculum instruction in the science of learning, and I now work with teacher candidates down at SUNY Geneseo. I am a mom of 3, and we've recently also gotten 2 puppies and a cat, so it is just pure chaos, but it's the best kind. And I believe public education is one of the most powerful acts we do as a society. We come together collectively and we agree we want to fund 13 years of education for every student. We don't always do it perfect, and we don't always agree on what it looks like, but we all agree that it's foundational to being an American. I decided to run for the board in 2021 and again this year in order to be of service of the community. I'm in a lucky position to have this level of professional experience and also have the time available to commit to this work. It's no small undertaking, and it is unpaid. I recognize that I am lucky to be able to ask the community to allow me to do this work and serve in this way, and I look forward to answering some of our students' questions tonight.
My name is Rich Muller. I'm also seeking your vote for the Fairport Board of Education on May 21st. I've lived in Fairport for 10 years. My wife and I moved here with a 3-year-old and a 3-week-old. Sight unseen, a house in the village that we just fell in love with. We were living in Boston at the time. My wife grew up in West Irondequoit. I grew up downstate, but I spent my childhood coming up here. I had an uncle who worked for Kodak, and I've always kind of loved this area. And as we had kids, we decided this would be a great place to raise our family. Since then, we've had a 3rd child. So 2 of them our 2 boys are at Brooks Hill, and we have our daughter who's a 7th grader at JP. Professionally, I am an actuary. So I went to Colgate University, and I got a degree in mathematics. Shortly thereafter, I pursued an actuarial career, spent the first part of my career studying, taking the actuarial exams, and doing the necessary coursework to become certified. I've been working as a consultant for about 20 years in that field. I enjoy volunteering in the community. For the past 4 years, I've been the Brooks Hill Cub Scout Pack Committee Chair. It's been a great way to get to know the other families, the other parents, the employees of our schools. It's been a really rewarding experience that I'm very glad I had the opportunity to take on. I'm really coming at this from the perspective of a parent and a professional. I can admit that I would likely not be running if Peter Forsgren wasn't deciding not to renew his term. That's a lot of experience coming off of our board. And in particular, Peter is a professional, he's a business professional, and he's got a lot of financial acumen. So I feel like I can bring some of those qualities, certainly not the experience that Peter has, but hopefully can be accretive to the board and everything that they're trying to do. That's really about us. My wife likes to volunteer. I also like to volunteer. My wife is substitute taught in our schools. She's gotten a firsthand look at the professionalism of our employees. And I'm really excited. We've really just grown to love this community and are always looking for ways to give back. And this seems like a good next step for us. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now turn the mic over to the students to ask the questions for our candidates. Just so the audience knows, we're going to alternate a question for Mrs. Fay with the questions for the board candidates, so nobody's on the spot all at once. But I didn't want you to be confused by some people were being asking questions and some people weren't. So thank you. Students, take it away.
All right, starting with Mrs. Fay, describe the role of the public library in this community.
Thanks, Lorenzo. Well, you know, when we want to know about the role of an organization like the library or any organization, I always find it really helpful to go to the mission statement, because that tells us a lot about what organizations feel that their essential work is. That is the nuts and bolts of what they do. And so if you look at, you know, our library's mission statement, the Fairport Public Library talks about using its resources to provide access to educational, to informational, to recreational, entertainment resources for folks who live in the Fairport Central School District, providing professional and friendly service, and that it talks about how it's really an integral, cooperative, collaborative, really part of the Fairport community. And so after we, you know, understand what the library, you know, says its work is, you know, then as residents and patrons, we can look and see, well, where does that play out? And we see the important work of that mission play out every day at the library, right? In terms of the fact that folks, we all can go to the library and access all variety of resources, whether it's for a new book that we want to read, a research project that we're going to utilize databases for, to get help doing searches to find information, and people can access those, you know, resources in all forms, in print, video, digital. And also, you know, the library provides folks a lot of opportunity to access technology and digital resources that they might not have the ability to get in their home. And so it really provides people's opportunity to connect with knowledge and information, which can be really important in terms of their own personal development. Finally, the library provides a lot of programming, which can be educational in nature, and it also really promotes a lot of community engagement, connection between people, really from the very youngest folks that are in Fairport to the oldest. And so the work that I see Fairport doing every day, I think aligns well with what they say are the most important things that they're doing.
What was your primary reason for running for school board, and what goals do you hope to accomplish during your tenure? Can we start with Mr. Muller, please?
Thanks, Elena. It's a great question. So my primary reason for running is, again, this is really coming out of my love for this community and wanting to give back, and the schools being a real strength of Fairport. This is just a fantastic way to serve my community. And again, I alluded to a little bit of the timing for why I'm deciding to do it now. I do think I have some skills that I could bring to the board that I think will be very relevant and hopefully that can serve our community well. As far as my primary goals, Our board has already set a lot of pretty ambitious goals over the next few years. And so I'm really looking forward to dig in and helping out. Some things I can think of are the merging in of our 9th grade students. I'm going to have firsthand experience with this. My daughter is going to be the last class at Minerva, and then my 2 boys will go directly to the high school. So I understand the opinions on both sides of this. I'm mostly committed just to making sure that we have a successful consolidation, and really making sure that we listen to all stakeholders and that everyone is clear on what the plan is, what the logistics are, how we're going to make sure that all concerns are being addressed. I think that's going to be critical over the next few years. I'd like to continue to have open, honest conversations about school start times, which is another topic where we have a lot of benefits to be gained. But again, I think it needs to be done in the right way, and we need to consider the unique perspectives of all of our community members, our school employees, as well as our parents, and of course, what's best for the students, being the most important. Another topic where I'm looking forward to having some good debate is our cell phone policy. I understand that that's under review, and looking forward to hearing how that's working in our schools and understanding what teachers think that they need in order to maintain their classrooms and have kids continue to focus. Lastly, I'm really excited about learning more about our multi-tiered systems of support, supporting our students' learning, SEL, and that stuff. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. White.
Thank you, Helena. In terms of primary reason is really just that love of public education. I love just being in the schools and seeing you guys just succeed and excel. It's just such a source of pride. In terms of goals, I plan to continue with a transparent and thoughtful budgeting process, continuing to ensure we have a balanced budget that aligns with our community expectations and our goals. And part of this, a big part of our board work is that advocating at the state and federal level for that funding. Unfortunately, the state takes a very political approach to school funding, and they play around with it in different ways every year. And so making sure school boards are out there at the forefront so that our kids and our educators can focus on the learning, and we'll get that advocating done. Agree with Mr. Muller about the successful consolidation of Minerva and FHS. There's going to be a lot of moving pieces there, but it's a really exciting opportunity for our students and our educators. Something that's less shiny, but that really excites me, is our policy review schedule for the board. For multitudes of reasons, our policies kind of slowed down and being reviewed regularly. So as chair of the policy committee, I've created what I think is a pretty beautiful spreadsheet and a quarterly review cycle to kind of get our policy review back on that 5-year cycle. So we don't have any kind of outdated policies still on the books. Continue to support all that work in alignment of curriculum, common assessments, and data-informed instructions. We talked a bit about MTSS, and I know we're going to have other questions later. And then continue that investment in personnel and facilities. So we have arguably some of the best educators working in this community. So how do we make sure we're retaining them, and how do we make sure we're getting the best to come in for those retirements and people who decide to no longer stay? And attract those new and diverse candidates? And how do we ensure our facilities are modernized, including investing in safety and security? Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question, we will start with Dr. White. What makes Fairport schools stand out among similar local districts?
Okay. So I think we all know, we feel it, that sense of pride in our community. So there's this pride in that Fairport family and all that we do, from our schools to our towns, to our library, to our parks, to our festivals. We do not do anything halfway. We do everything the full Raider way. And we're proud of that work we do. And we see that love of our neighbors in big events. I think of the fire at the Pines of Parenton, being at the Herald House and having hundreds of people dropping off donations and trying to organize that and then getting that to other people. And then you see it in all the little ways. We see it in the fundraising summaries that we get on the board of our students working so hard to raise and support other people, just to do it, just to love other people in our community. Seeing people drop off that few extra groceries they have at a food stand, seeing that online GoFundMe for the Fairport person facing cancer. Our crowds, whenever our students are out there doing something to be celebrated, our crowds are full. And it doesn't matter what you guys engaged in, from robotics to downstage to anything. There is a full audience there cheering you on. there's a love and a deep-rooted pride in this community, and I'm very thankful to be a part of that and to raise my kids here. And it also doesn't hurt that we have pretty awesome swag that reflects our pride. I don't know if anybody outside of our community notices to what level we all wear Fairport gear, but we do. And if there's a Crazy Dog t-shirt for sale, I'm probably buying it for me and the whole family. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Mary nailed it. If you're kind of wondering about Fairport Pride, or you're not feeling it, or kind of wondering what it's all about, just come to one of the school events. Come to the pep rally. Like, you could see it, you could feel it, you could literally feel it. Like, the heat coming off of that bonfire is totally crazy. I did not grow up with anything like that as a kid, and my kids are not even in the high school yet, and we still show up. We have family that lives right near there, so we all head over for the pep rally, and it's amazing. And why is everyone so proud of Fairport? I think it comes down to the people in our buildings. I live in the Village. We have parents, teachers, staff, coaches, facilities workers, bus drivers, all in our community, and they're all just the most wonderful people focused on our kids. I don't have any experience in other districts. I have a hard time thinking that their people could be any better than ours, but we have a lot to be proud of, and we show it off, and it's really a great place to go to school.
Thank you both. Now to Mrs. Fay. What do you think of the accessibility of the library?
Thanks, Lorenzo. Well, I think when you use the word accessibility, it can mean a lot of different things. And so I'll kind of touch on the idea of accessibility from a couple different perspectives. First of all, from a geographic perspective, I think that the library is in a really super accessible location. Being in the heart of the Village, it's really in a place that's a hub of activity, and it can be accessed by people who are walking or biking on the canal, taking a trip through the Village, taking a stroll, and obviously by car as well. And it's kind of on the path of a thoroughfare that most of us who are Fairport residents pass through and across many times a week, if not a day. And so in terms of its, convenience and location, that's really excellent. But I think that, accessibility means a lot of other things, and that's really what the library is in the business of, is like accessibility of resources for folks, right? Accessibility can mean offering folks a breadth and a depth of information from a whole variety of well-regarded and reputable sources, and whether that's for, learning and knowledge, or for entertainment, because it's important that, Fairport is a really vibrant and diverse community. And so the folks in Fairport are seeking entertainment and information from on different topics, from different perspectives. We all have different life experiences, and so we're looking, for information that pertains to us, or perhaps reflects what's important to us, or who that is composed or put together by folks that might have life experiences similar to us. So the library works hard to provide resources that meet everybody's needs. And then in terms of accessibility for various populations, the library does lots of great things in order to allow patrons to interact. You don't even have to go to the library in order to be able to use all of the resources that are there, with the various digital resources, and also the partnering programs that they have for folks who are homebound.
Now on to, where do you see the greatest need for change or improvement in our district? Can we start with Mr. Mueller again? Thank you.
Thank you again, Helena. The greatest need for change. So sometimes it feels like the greatest needs are actually out of the control of the school board. I mean, we would love to have more school bus drivers so that we can have the flexibility to do the start times that are perfect for every age student. We'd love to have the robust pipeline of college graduates with teaching degrees that we had several years ago to help with turnover. We would love to have a steady enrollment so that we can plan a little bit better and make sure we have adequate housing for our school employees as well as our families. These are all things that I think are challenging our district. But as a board member, I'm going to be singularly focused on the things that are well within our control. And some things that come to mind are moving from this phase of big requests from the community for funding for large capital improvements to kind of a more maintenance phase, where we're doing the necessary work now, but we're going to get that preserved. We're going to make things sustainable, and we're going to have the cost will be more in a maintenance type of cost than a large expenditure. Again, I'm going to mention the 9th grade consolidation. I think it's going to be a challenge. I think that we're going to really need to have a good plan. We're going to need to get buy-in from the people in the building. We're going to be merging cultures, so we need to do a lot of listening. And I think we need to address the concerns of the people that are going to be teaching and administering that building after the consolidation. I think that just in general, we want to make sure that we have some procedures in place so that when we have key positions that are turning over, where you lose a lot of experience, a lot of specific knowledge, that's going to be really important, that we make sure that we're set up for the future and that we're not going to be having a lot of chaotic transitions. I think we need to keep things as smooth as we can and plan for the future.
Thank you, Dr. White.
Thank you. So we don't meet the needs of every child and the whole child. And when we talk about our mission, we do great by the majority of our students, but there's aspects where we can improve for almost everyone. So we know we don't have all students performing at grade level. We don't have all students graduate. There are students who can't access certain classes or engage in extracurriculars, and we have facilities that have needs, particularly our elementaries and our middle school infrastructure needs work. But here's one of the best parts of Fairport. We have a superintendent, administrators, and educators throughout our district who know where those gaps are. They know whether a student is learning. They know the facilities, they know security, and there's a level of reflection and dedication that you don't see everywhere. So that ability to reflect on what's working and what isn't, and a willingness to act on that information. So the heart and the desire to change to best meet the needs of students is there, and building those systems and structures to do the best by them is hard, but we have the people willing to do so. So I believe that greatest need for change or improvement is making sure we're living up to that mission for every child and the whole child. Then we get into the philosophical question of whether you ever can meet it, but I'll be darned if we don't try every single day. So, thank you.
Thank you. According to an article in Education Week from December of 2022, amid the general mental health crisis among youth, the specific issue of climate anxiety is surging. A nationally representative EdWeek Research Center survey found that 37% of teenagers feel anxious when they think about climate change and its effects, and more than a third feel afraid. Many also said they feel helpless and overwhelmed. What is the role of the school board in addressing this growing concern of our students? When it comes to sustainable practices for the district, what are your top priorities? We will start with Dr. White.
Thank you. And I feel that same sense of urgency. I live out these values in my own life, from our house being powered by solar power and geothermal, cloth diapering, composting, electric vehicle. I worry about the health of the planet we are leaving to our children and what can be done to save it. A district of our size does have a large carbon footprint, and there's many ways we can work to offset this and work to proactively help our environment. One of the first meetings I was on in 2021 was a group of students came to the board and asked to form a sustainability committee for this very reason. They wanted to see change happen, and they wanted to see it happen now so that they can thrive on this planet. And that committee has been active ever since, and I'm proud to see our district diving into that work that often surpasses state ed and expectations. This committee spearheads events such as weed pulls and recycling of school supplies, and they foster supports in elementary green teams. But most importantly is they are working alongside our educators to build and align where possible those state standards and curriculum so that our students learn these important concepts while they're getting their education through school. They're understanding these problems and they're empowered to find those solutions. One exciting thing that's happening starting next year is the piloting of composting at elementary schools. Our sustainability worked with Impact Earth, and they found that at Dudley Northside, 50% of the garbage produced in one day was compostable. That's a lot of compostable material going into the landfill. So now that will be taken out and composted by Impact Earth. So that's a 50% reduction headed towards the landfill. One big endeavor that we're going to have to continue to work on is the electric bus mandate by the state. Unfortunately, it's a great idea, and the state is not enacting it in a great way. They are trying to push forward a mandate to have this happen when the buses don't exist, and then to potentially punish districts when we can't buy them or procure the systems. So that's going to be a lot of nuanced work. This is all said with the understanding that this isn't enough at our school level nor at our national level, and there needs to be a greater sense of urgency and hurry to this work.
Thank you for the question. I understand maybe the three of you are even feeling it yourselves. I would say you do have some power over this, right? Mary just mentioned a whole bunch of initiatives. You're in a place that really does care about this issue. You live in Fairport, you live in New York State. So you do have a lot of leaders that are very focused on this. I think composting is great. We have a village composting program. My family and I have been composting for 15 years now. There's little things you can do when you're feeling anxious that you can turn into proactivity, right? You can walk instead of getting a ride. You can start gardening, composting. You can eat locally grown foods. And these are all small steps, but I think a lot of times when you're dealing with anxiety, it's great to just feel like you're kind of doing something to healthy habits that make you feel a little bit better, like you're contributing. I do want to talk about the electric buses. I think all of us are really excited about the idea of harnessing clean energy. Electric buses are pretty cool. The way the state is doing this is really not realistic. The mandate is to have, correct me if I'm wrong, but zero emission purchases, all new buses sold need to be zero emission by 2027. And then the full fleet needs to be zero emission by 2035. And we live in a district where half of the routes can't be serviced by the current technology. So we need our state leaders to really come up with something that is not such a sledgehammer and that is actually going to make this something that's realistic. I'm hoping that the powers that be can compromise and this doesn't become the type of wedge issue that each party latches onto and our kids end up suffering. We need some really good compromise out of Albany on this, and hopefully Fairport can demonstrate our needs for our district and get some traction.
Thank you both. Now back to Mrs. Fay. What do you know about library patrons?
Thanks, Lorenzo. Well, library patrons are you and me and all of the people in this room, right? We're the folks who are residents of the Fairport Central School District. And so we all have different backgrounds and interests and are at different points in our lives and are looking for different things from the library. In terms of, the folks who are using the library, our Fairport Library is one of the busiest libraries in Monroe County. So it is a high energy, full hopping place. It has the highest circulation of any of the libraries in Monroe County. About 240,000 people visited Fairport Library back in 2023. And we have a relatively small library in terms of space based upon the amount of circulation of books and resources that come in and out. So things don't just sit on the shelves. The collection is always being used in turn. The folks who are using the library, still are using book, print resources, but are using more digital resources through applications like Libby or Hoopla, Overdrive to get ebooks, audiobooks, things like that. But people are still visiting the library despite also using those resources. And folks who visit the library, like I said, have just a huge background of interests. And I think you see that in terms of the programming and how people use the programming of the library. Young families really value the programs that the library has for, early literacy, story times, and all the children's activities that happen during the school year and over the course of the summer. And adults also access programming on a huge variety of things, from life and health safety to information, education, various entertainment programming. And in addition, they appreciate the services to things like computers, internet, and printing that the library allows. Finally, patrons appreciate the central role of the library in terms of being part of the big things that are happening, whether it's getting ready for the eclipse or handing out COVID tests when those things are needed. Thank you.
Thank you. The growing mental health struggles of children is often becoming the responsibility of the school. How do you plan to support our schools with the necessary resources to support teachers and the stretched mental health staff? Can we start with Mr. Muller, please?
Thank you. Another great question. You know, this obviously is something that's front of mind as a school board, considering the mental health of our students. And we know that coming out of the pandemic, there's a lot of concerns there. I think probably the main function of a school board in this area is to listen to our superintendent, who has the ear of the building administrators and the staff and the teachers. And hopefully the teachers have an understanding of what they need in their classrooms, of what their students need. And then our job is to make sure you get it really through the budget process, make sure that we're listening, that we're prioritizing it, that we understand what the needs are and what it's going to cost, and we have a good way of getting it to our students. And I think we also need to consider the mental health of our school employees and making sure that they have the support that they need, which is also something that's in the purview of the school board through the budget process. And so that's something that we all need to focus on. So thanks for that question.
Mr. Miller hit it. So the clearest way that our board, as a board member, you can support mental health is through the budget. And as a board, we have put that money strongly towards this. We have behaviorists, social workers, counselors, psychologists in every building. And we have strong partnerships with places such as URMC to help meet the needs. Our curriculum includes social emotional learning to help students build resilience and endurance, 2 key factors in mental health. We engage with families and community members for learning opportunities. One that I loved was the impact of cell phones and social medias and helping parents figure that out. But I say all this knowing we could probably double our mental health staff in our schools and still not meet every need. It is an ongoing opportunity to better support our student and family population, and we need to continue funding these resources so our educators and families have avenues to bring students to when there are concerns and when they need supports. We also need some big changes outside of schools, increased number of adolescent psychologists and trained therapists to help families meet that need. We need the state to change some of the guidelines for certification so we can get more school counselors into our buildings and more people certified. So those are advocacy work that we can also do as board members.
Thank you. Do you feel that the social, emotional, and diversity, equity, and inclusion educational frameworks have been successful in their missions thus far, and are they worthy of continuing? Why or why not? Dr. White.
So to the point of success, I'm going to talk more about this in a second, yes and no. But yes, to the point of them being worth continuing, 100 times over, yes. Equity and inclusion are inherent to our moral obligation and our societal expectations for public education, and we have to facilitate learning environments that meet the need of every child. We have to empower and partner with families and children to have them be active partners in this. So equity and inclusion is the breaking down of barriers and increasing access and ability to flourish when they can access and be included. So I'm part of the Regional Equity Network, and we have our goal is that if we've met equity, we can no longer reliably distinguish students based on shared characteristics such as race, gender, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation. So yes, to continuing the work, and yes, the SEL curriculum, because teaching those social, emotional, and behavioral skills, like managing conflict, how to be a good friend, understanding your own emotions, all of these skills help our kids to acquire those academic skills. They are linked together very strongly. So then I have to say yes and no if we've hit that mission. We've made huge changes as a district. We have empowered the voice of our students so they can come and request classes and they can request extracurriculars that fit their passions. We are building successful Tier 1 instructional pedagogy in order to access academic content as an act of equity. We're shifting the code of conduct away from punitive measures towards restorative work, but please believe me when I say there are consequences for actions. But for example, a student caught using tobacco is no longer suspended for 30 days to now be alone. They are instead with us in the building getting drug treatment and restoring harm and learning from their choices. We lead the county in unified sports teams and unified gym classes, so increasing inclusion for students with disabilities. So yes, we have hit the mission in those things, but there are successes, and then there are areas that we still need to help. Our LGBTQ+ students report higher rates of anxiety and depression and thoughts of self-harm. Our students of color aren't scoring as well as their white students on state assessments. Our students with disabilities face barriers in course opportunities. So yes, there's success, but no, we haven't done enough yet.
I mean, some examples of why I'm excited to join this board is just everything that they're doing to really address the needs of our students. So I just want to talk about how I'm going to approach this as a brand new board member, kind of getting introduced to a lot of these programs. So you can see that the effort and the focus is there. I think we just need to make sure that we are monitoring results. I've heard a lot of concerns, and this is not unique to Fairport, but you hear from teachers about emotional dysregulation in the classroom that starts early and kind of continues on into the middle school and beyond. So I think we just need to be constantly making sure we're using that most evidence-based curriculum and programs and frameworks. I think we need to seek to understand whether we're making progress. I know there's not a perfect way to measure progress, but we need some measurements. So I look forward to looking at the data that's available as far as our SEL programs and how they're succeeding. DEI, I've had personal experiences with my kids going through DEI curriculum, and they've been very positive. I actually couldn't have imagined a better situation, and I credit our teachers for that. I think that they are well-trained, they are very well-intentioned, they are very capable of delivering the DEI framework within the curriculum. As I think about DEI, I think we need to adhere to some key objectives. So number one, we need to be reducing discrimination against all people. That's like a no-brainer. We need to preserve meritocracy as the ultimate goal. So we need to be lifting people up so that they can achieve on their own merits. We need to never require or coerce adherence to a specific political ideology. We need to respect diversity of opinion. We need to encourage intellectual curiosity and not uniformity. So my experience has been that Fairport is sticking to those principles. I look forward to hearing if anyone else is having a different experience, but I really think we are on a really good track in this area.
Thank you. Now back to Mrs. Fay. What role does the public library play in a community like ours?
Thanks, Lorenzo. Well, I've already talked a lot about, libraries being a place to access different resources and information, whether it's print or video or audio, digital, what have you, and also, accessing technology in terms of computer internet access. And, it can be easy to think about libraries as, kind of stagnant places where the, books and computers live. But I think, I see a great role for the Fairport Public Library really promoting, connection and engagement of folks in the Fairport community really throughout the whole lifespan. And so we see that in, there's so many things that the library is doing to connect people and to connect with people. So everything from, this evening, there's a presentation on motherhood through history. There are classes that you can take in everything from getting your boating certification to people that are learning English as a new language. There's also a commitment really to the whole person that I think is wonderful. The library is a place that facilitates health screenings, right? Whether it's blood pressure screenings, hearing screenings. There's a walking club that the library has. So it's really not only bringing people to information, but I see the library as a great place to bring people together, whether it's over a topic that they want to learn more about together or shared interests that they have in terms of a book club, something like that. And finally, to connect the folks of Fairport to the larger community. People from the library go out and do outreach with some of the folks in the various senior living communities who might not be able to get into the library, and also provide patrons access to a lot of great museums and recreational activities that are happening through various passes and VIP tickets and things that can happen. And so really what the library helps us to do is to really connect with each other and to connect with our surrounding community in a really meaningful and high quality way.
Thank you. Starting with Mr. Mueller. The majority of students in our district have cell phones by middle school, with some students as young as kindergarten bringing a phone to school. What is your opinion on the use of cell phones in our schools and an implementation of a new policy or reinforcement of the current phone policy?
Wow, times are really different from when we were in school. My first phone was, I think, one of those LG chocolate that, I was really good at texting on it, though. But we used to use graphing calculators to play Pong, which was the distraction when I was in high school. But I'll just talk a little bit about my understanding of the current policy. So my understanding is there's no cell phones allowed K through 5 in schools. Middle schools, kids are allowed to bring phones in, but they can't bring them into the classrooms. And then I believe in the high schools, they're permitted to have them in the classrooms, but they're not supposed to have them out. So I'm getting some nods. And so I think that's part of the issue is, right, we want to make sure we have consistency in enforcement. This is an area where we've got to listen to our teachers. Sorry, guys, if they tell us that the phones need to go away, I think, you know, we're going to have to figure out how to enforce that. If there needs to be more flexibility, we'll build that in. But I understand that this is under review now, and I'm looking forward to hearing about our teachers' experience and thinking about the students, what's best for all of you, and coming to something that we can all agree on.
Thank you, Dr. White.
Yeah, it blows my mind. Our kindergartner and our second grader don't reliably bring home their pencils, so I don't know that they're ready for this endeavor. So the data we've seen, K-8 is really working in our district. So we don't have the cell phones. They go in the lockers or till the end of the day. There's some pushback, some difficulties, but overall successful. So the real challenge in our district seems to be at that 9-12 level. So we know cell phones aren't going away, but we also know cell phones are a barrier in the learning environment. So how do we focus on them as a tool to be used and a skill to be developed? The same lens is going to have to apply to AI as it continues to build and be more integrated in our society. I'm very appreciative that our 9-12 educators, our administrators, our students are coming together over the course of this year, recognizing that this is a problem. It's a challenge, it's an opportunity. And they're working to create that coherent regulation to roll out next year. So they've not finalized it, but it's being built by them for them to use appropriately, to see warning signs and help students recognize those warning signs in their own use. I think we've all had that moment where you scrolled and you're caught off guard that was just 30 minutes and you can't remember what you're actually looking at. But so teaching you how to see that and put it away and get back out to the relationships face to face. And continue those partnerships with families and building those skills and having those family conversations. So those learning sessions about cell phones and social media and help our families support our students. We're not going to get rid of cell phones. We all use them, but how do we use it as a tool?
Thank you both. For our next question, how familiar are you with the current curriculum and do you have a vision for it? We'll start back with Dr. White.
Yeah, so the state sets the standards for every content area and grade level. So they tell us by the end of this coursework, students should be able to do X, Y, and Z. So districts are then charged with ensuring that curriculum is created or procured to have students meet those standards. So it would be impossible as a board member to know every standard that's used in every content area and at every grade level. As a parent, I'm very familiar with the elementary level right now because we are living it in our home. But in terms of the board's role of curriculum, we set those policies to have a robust curriculum that's data informed, that teachers have the professional development to prepare them to implement, and that there is a review process ongoing. So that review process is presented for different content areas at different workshops of the board. So if you're interested in watching an old meeting, our March meeting, we talked at the humanities curriculum and they gave a presentation on a report of what's being done, what areas need to be improved, how it aligns with our district-wide and state assessments, how it aligns with continued work to improve the curriculum. So when teachers get together over the summer, what is that going to look like so that they can keep building? So that's the role of the board, to ensure that the policies set the expectation for our superintendent and to ensure those systems are in place and aligned to our mission. And so we set those expectations for academic excellence for our students, and then it's built from there.
Thanks. I don't have much to add on that. So I don't come from an education background, come from a more finance type of background. So this will be a developmental area for me. I probably won't be rolling up my sleeves too much on curriculum right away. I do, expect us obviously to be compliant with the state guidance and making sure that we are giving our educators the training that they need and the resources, listening to any of their concerns. I hope that when we implement new curriculum, it's evidence-based and that we measure results and collect the data that we need to see how it's working. Recently, we have a new shift in our literacy program, so I've seen some really encouraging statistics on that, and I think we just need to continue to monitor and make sure it's working for our students.
Thank you both. Now back to Mrs. Fay. Ebook readers and new technology seem to be the future. How is the library dealing with the emerging technology now? And what are the implications for the library's role in the future?
Thanks, Lorenzo. Well, there have been, a lot of changes in technology in the past few years. And if you look at libraries now, there are parts of them that look a lot different than the libraries that I went to growing up, where we were still had big cabinets with drawers that we had the card catalog. And when you had to do research on a project, you would go and scroll through the microfilm and the microfiche to see the back issues of the journals that you needed to find. And so there's, libraries have had to do a lot of adapting already to the big changes in technology that have occurred in the past few decades. But I suspect they've been adapting even longer than that, because our Fairport Library has been around since around 1840. And so it's gone through a lot of changes over that time in terms of adapting and responding to the times and the needs and the interests of its patrons. And I'm sure that things will continue to change, and that when you sit and talk to your kids about the library or visit the libraries of the future when you're adults, you'll look back fondly on, the apps that we downloaded on our smartphones, right, to access different things. And I think at the end of the day, it's just really important if libraries understand what that important work, their essential work is, what their values are in terms of trying to serve the community and promote engagement and connection among community members and providing access to entertainment and information. Those qualities and actions are timeless, and the technology is really the vehicle through which libraries use to connect people with the resources and the information that they need. So I think if it really uses kind of those key, core principles and key values as its guidepost, then it will continue to adapt and change and evolve, and it'll really remain a vital and an integral part of the community for many years to come.
Thank you, and thank you to your responses. The elementary shift from wit and wisdom and 95% has been met with mixed reviews from our staff, students, and families. What is your opinion of this new curriculum? Can we start with Mr. Muller, please?
So I'm pretty fortunate that my kids have been pretty good readers, all of them. And I think that this new curriculum has only helped. So that's my personal experience. We had some really encouraging statistics at the Under the Hood session. There were 2 sessions for the budget where we did a deep dive into the different elements of the budget and some of the allocations of funds and what programs those were supporting. So just a plug, I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about the budget. Those sessions were fantastic. It was almost like being at a business meeting where you could raise your hand and ask questions, but there weren't that many people there, so hopefully we get some more people in the future. I think, again, with anything new like this, we need to just continue to monitor and make sure it's meeting the results that we expect. I understand, I think in your question you mentioned that there's been some mixed reviews about it. I would hope that we're really fostering a culture of collaboration. And if some teachers are doing really great with this and their students are doing great and other students or teachers are not having the same experience, I really hope that we're sharing ideas within buildings and across buildings. And let's get energized. Let's try to really make sure that let's make our good ideas contagious. Let's make sure we've got best practices and we're sharing, because we're all a team. We're all in this together. So really another area where I'm going to be looking to listen carefully to our superintendent, what he's hearing from the people in our schools, and seeing what we can do as board members to help everyone.
So the biggest feedback I've gotten regarding Wit and Wisdom and 95% is the heavy lift that our teachers have undertaken implementing these curriculums. So the decision to move to these curriculums and align the work across the buildings and grade levels was really our teacher driven. Our educators led the way in piloting different potential programs, a few of them, and then coming together to decide which programs they best felt met the needs of our learners. So they picked Wit and Wisdom and 95% to partner together because they align so well to the science of reading. So anybody who doesn't know, Wit and Wisdom really addresses kind of that reading comprehension part, and then 95% is the phonics. And we know in the science of learning that we want those interwoven together. So there's been a robust method of feedback paired with this rollout as well. So educators give feedback to the Director of Humanities. She's in buildings providing support alongside our lead teachers who are available for coaching. Based on the feedback from teachers, our district administration is addressing the need for additional time in the master's schedule. I mean, how awesome is that our teachers are like, I need more time to
read, and the kids are like, we want more time to read. That's really a great piece of feedback. Teachers are also engaging in curriculum work throughout the summer on these lessons and activities based on that feedback that they've taken throughout the year, and that collaboration to say, what did you do that worked well and what did I do, and build so next year is even better. So we've seen that preliminary data in reports to the board that success is happening with these programs, and we anticipate that to continue. I see the success of these programs in my own home. My husband and I feel very empowered and really like partners because we receive these summary sheets as they're beginning new units with the 95%, so we know which kind of word pairs or sounds they're working on in class, and so at bedtime reading we can kind of point those out with them. So it feels really cool to be that partner in that, and seeing our children become readers is probably one of the biggest joys of my life. So there's bumps and challenges with everything, but that prelim data is showing that it is working, and I am just so thankful to our educators for lifting this. This is huge, and they do so much every day, and I just can't be prouder and more thankful.
Thank you both. There's a great deal of discussion regarding pace and rigor of study. However, our post-pandemic students often struggle with that drive and motivation to do their best. What should our district do to better prepare students to take their place as members of society after graduation?
So we know the majority of our Fairport students are able to engage with the curriculum and successfully complete high school. We see the data. We know our graduation rates, our graduation with honors, our enrollment in electives, and honor coursework. However, we do have students who are facing difficulty with motivation and with engaging in the curriculum. So when we say every child and the whole child, we mean it, and we have to live it. So the multi-tiered system of supports are building so that they are in place in order to catch those students early on. So our educators engage with that data that shows those early warning signs, such as attendance rates, failing the first quarter, and they can jump in and provide those supports because every situation is going to require different supports. So we want to have that robust continuum available. And we're lucky in Fairport to have a community that supports a budget that provides supports to students, whether it be counseling, partnerships with URMC, our data platform that allows us to quickly access this type of information, and that nuanced view of learners. And this just gives us such an opportunity to provide skills and those social, emotional, and behavioral learning with our SEL curriculum so that even more of our students are able to be successful in the learning environments.
Yeah, so I'll kind of piggyback on a couple of points you made there. So I am very encouraged from what I've seen from the early results of the MTSS. For those who don't know what this is, it's trying to get kids just-in-time support so that you can get them back on track if they're starting to fall behind, and get as many kids as possible in the kind of core instruction in the classroom. It's data-driven, which I really like. I think that we just need to be making sure that our students are making those connections that maybe they lost during the pandemic. It's nothing unique to Fairport, this kind of feeling of malaise after the pandemic. And, I think that we want to make sure that everyone is taking full advantage of what Fairport offers and kind of remaking those connections if it's taking a little while. As far as, the pace and the rigor, I think I'm just going to really be asking a lot of questions, frankly. I'm going to be asking our superintendent, what are our teachers and principals saying about their students? Do we have the right pace? How are they reacting? Has the pandemic changed the way we look at the use of technology? Do we really feel like we have the right balance between FaceTime and screen time? Star times, I think that's another one. If we're going to be looking at changing star times, how does that help with some of these challenges that we're experiencing? And making sure we're thinking about all students. I think the star times, there's going to be some good science that we can look at for the older students. It's not quite as robust in the younger students. So I think we're going to have to consider a lot of that as we go down that path. So,
Thank you.
Thank you all for those thoughtful responses. Now we would like to give each candidate 1 minute for closing statements, and we'll do this in reverse order. So we'll start with Rich Muller, followed by Dr. Mary Caitlin White, and then end with Jennifer Fay.
all right, well, thank you, everybody. I hope everyone will go out and vote on May 21st and vote yes for the budget and vote for me and Mary for school board. I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm really excited to help. I think I can really be a benefit to our board. we haven't talked a lot about sort of the culture of our current board, but we really have a group of people that are committed to working together, freely talking about things, offering diverse opinions with a spirit of compromise, and that's exactly how I'm approaching this. So I'm really excited to contribute, and thanks to all of you for your questions tonight. They were really thoughtful. Thanks to the PTSA for facilitating. This is a really helpful event for our community that you do every year, and it's pretty exciting to be on this side of the table for it. So thank you, everyone.
I just want to echo that thank you to the PTSA. You always do such a wonderful job on these, and I know you guys are end of the year busy and Teacher Appreciation Week all hitting at the same time, so thank you. To our student facilitators, thank you. I'm excited to keep seeing each of you grow as you continue on in your Fairport High School journey. You're great. I appreciate everyone here tonight and those watching at home. I'm asking you to vote on May 21st so that I can continue my service on the Board of Education. I also ask that you make sure your voice is heard on the vote. 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., Joanna Perrin Middle School. Don't forget to show up. Thank you.
And I would also just like to add my thanks and gratitude to the PTSA for hosting tonight's event and for our wonderful student proctors. It's been great to be here with you, and I've known two of these folks since they were little wee ones in the elementary years. So it's great to see the wonderful young men and women that you've grown up to be. And I really appreciate the chance to come and talk with you tonight and share some of my thoughts with you, and I would greatly appreciate your support at the school budget and the library budget and trustee vote on May 21st. You know, I've been a resident of Fairport for a long time. I've been a great lover of books as a person and within our family. As an educator, I support and see the power and access to information and lifelong learning. I think I have a skill set that could help me to really be able to serve the board well through my years of service to other organizations and my graduate and doctoral work in leadership. And I also understand the role of the board in terms of its work, in terms of oversight, financial management, and facility support. And so I would just love the opportunity to engage with the other Board of Trustee members in this role. So thanks for your time and the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you. Let's take a second to thank our library trustee candidate and our Board of Education candidates and our students.
We encourage everyone to go vote Tuesday, May 21st, once again from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at JP Middle School. Fairport's Odyssey of the Mind will be having a Texas barbecue fundraiser that evening to support their Two Worlds finalist teams in the Minerva parking lot from 4 to 7 p.m. And thank you all for joining this evening and showing your support for our Fairport students and our community. This concludes the program. Good night. Thank you.